Hello, everyone. I'm Becky Goldsmith, and welcome to Time Out. Thank you for taking time with me. I think I timed it right so that I said hello when it started. I have hesitated whether to point this out or not, but I can't stand it because I'm looking at myself on the screen, which is weird. I got, they're real. But I got lashes yesterday on my eyes. You know, the lashes, and they glue them to your real eyelashes. They look nice, but this I'm not going to redo them. So enjoy the lashed up me while I'm here, because it wasn't an unpleasant experience. And if any of you guys are curious, email me at becky@pieceofcake.com. And I can tell you how it is, but anyway, I'm 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 trying not to blink because it's so weird. All right, here we go. We're started. Today's timeout, I wanted to tell you what's behind me is the book Hand Sewing from here. I really like the under part here where it's at the byline, the subtitle where it says A Journey to Unplug, Slow Down, and Learn Something New. And I wrote about that just a little bit in the newsletter this morning because we are into summer here, and summer is a time where we move around some, and it's nice to have hand sewing when you are out visiting, and it is a thing where you slow down and unplug and have fun. So there are great hand sewing projects inside that book. Now, let me tell you what I'm talking to you about today. I got more than one email. I was just making sure that the sound was on. That's Judy. Lorna is at the dentist today. She's not answering your questions if you have any, but Judy will. Okay, so I'm talking about fabric wrangling today. And what I mean by that is how to fold it, how I fold it, how it fits on the shelf. But in this case, more importantly, it's how to wrangle your stash into a usable amount of fabric. I have mentioned before that I don't like to let my stash get out of control. So I've been weeding and taking you along for the journey here. So I want to show you where I started. This is my stash. I've shown it to you before. And while it looks like there's room on the shelves, and there is some, there is also a bin full of K-facet fabrics, and there's the fabric stacked on the floor. And in my studio, I've got fabric that would fill a third of a shelf that's got to go somewhere. So I'm going to thin my stash, and I'm going to show you how I do it. I think I'm going to start at the top with the yellows. So I'll be back showing you what I do next. Okay, I did start with the yellows, and where I took the video is in that room. That's the front bedroom, and it's the easiest place to thin the stash on the dresser where I can stand there and sort and put the discards on the bed. That's easier than taking the stacks to my studio, sorting them out, and then carrying them back to the other room. So here we go. Now this is me standing at the dresser. It's kind of a weird shot, but you'll see. I've taken all my yellow fabric out of the closet, and I've already begun sorting stacks because I forgot to hit record. You missed that part. So here, I am nowhere near done. This is a stack of kind of yellow-green keepers. This is leaning toward golds. These are leaning more toward the oranges, and this is more of a yellow gold. When I'm going through this process, I go back to and refine the distribution of colors inside each color. But what you do is this. You look at a fabric and you go, yeah, I don't know why I bought it. There it goes. And I don't know. Goes over there. There is a lot of fabric that I need to make room for. And so It's got to come from somewhere. And even though I thought I had all of my cave facets in the bin, I obviously do not, because I keep running into some. You know, just because it's a dot doesn't mean I need to keep it. Ooh, but I like that. That goes there. I don't know why I like that, but I do. Ooh, and I like this. And I like this color. So I am slowly sorting out the wheat from the chaff, as they say. And what I'll do is continue doing this. And you might think, man, she's making those decisions so quickly. I have a lot of fabric to get through. And what I have found is that it really is easier if you just do it. If you just look at it and go, yeah, I still like that. No, I really still don't. What I will end up with is a pile on the bed of stuff that I have on the first pass decided I didn't like it. And you know what's funny? The longer you have the I don't like it's on the bed, the less you like them, as there are more of them. So I will get my yellows done. I'm going to put them on the shelf, and then I'll show you what I ended up with. That is the reject pile so far, and you can see it's more than just yellows and a little bit of orange. I got into some of the fabric on the floor, and I've been into my cafe bins, and you know what? I don't love every piece of cafe fabric that I own. Amazing, right? That's the mess at the end of the bed. So much more to sort. But look up here. There's my yellows going into the oranges with lots of space to add more. And I took out 2 piles of oranges down on the next shelf. And that's how much space I've made. It feels really good. And you know, the other part about this is that as I have touched and sorted every fabric, I now have a pretty good idea of what I've got so far. There's more to go. And I don't know that I'm going to do all of this in one day. It may take longer. And that's okay. I can pace myself, and so can you. Okay. It takes so much longer, and I don't have as much fabric as some of you. I worked on the reds evening before last, because I took that video day before yesterday. I worked on the reds while I was in the living room watching TV. And it went reasonably well, so say a couple of hours there. Then today, I got into the next row, the pinks, purples, and then into the blues. And I bet I've spent 3 hours at it, and I'm worn out. It's because making those decisions makes you tired. Decision making in general just makes you tired. Makes me tired. Maybe it doesn't make you tired. But it still needs to be done, and it still remains true. And when I am going through those piles and deciding like it, don't like it, this is what I figured out today. It's that my tastes have changed. The quilts that I want to make next require a little bit different kind of fabric and print than the quilts I was making 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They may look the same unless you look close, but to me, there's been a shift in what I want to work with. So, I'm keeping what feels right to me now, and I can't put a better finger on it than that, and I'm letting go of perfectly good fabric that I paid. We pay a lot for fabric, so perfectly good fabric that I some of it I even bought last year, so it was not inexpensive. But I know I'm not going to use it. I just know I'm not. And even if I No, I'm just pretty sure I'm not going to use it. I've got enough left in the closet to use. Okay, well, we'll come back to what are you going to do with it after that. So at least 2 people asked about how I fold. That's the next thing I want to show you. How do you get it tidy in the shelf? Because you notice I'm working on shelves where I can see all my fabric. Part of the problem with the capes in the bin is that it was too hard to find what I was looking for. All right, here we go. This is a yard of fabric that I have unfolded and pressed a little bit so that it wasn't all the way creased from my first folding. I don't normally iron my fabric before I fold it. When I've got a yard or more, I bring the selvage edges together like this. And then what you want to do is make sure that the fabric is not doing that. So you don't line up the cut ends. That has nothing to do with if it's straight. You hold it by the 2 selvages until everything hangs straight. And if you're lucky, your ends are pretty good, and if you're not, they're off, and that's just the way it is. Then I lay it down on a surface. Let me switch the camera so you can see what I do from here. From here, I fold like this, and sometimes I pick it up again like that. And I typically hold from the folded side and make sure the folds are straight. Sometimes I do it from the other direction, but usually like this. Then I fold here. And very often I'll flip it and fold it with the cut edges to the inside just because it's neater that way. If I've got a piece of fabric that when I bring it together like this is going to be either too narrow or too wide for my typical size on the shelf, I will adjust. So sometimes, let's see, if it was going to be really narrow, instead of folding it in half and in half again, I might fold it into thirds. This is not like that because that would be way too big for my shelf. But I have been known to not take it all the way over to there, and then I fold in the center, and that fits my shelf. One other consideration when I'm folding fabric is that what I see on the shelf at the folded edge does not always give me the whole picture of what the fabric is, because this fabric is an ombre. Now, if I wanted to capture that a little more at the folded edge, I could, and sometimes do, fold here and here. And at this end, it gives me more of an idea of what this fabric is. Most fabrics you don't have to think that through, but some of them you do. Okay, so I fold. And honestly, whether you take, whether you fold it with the selvages to the fold and then this way and over, or the other way, you mostly end up with the same size, pretty much. So my shelves. What are my shelves made of? I'm going to show you because inside that closet, and it's not very deep, it's the depth of a closet where you'd have a rod going across and you can hang clothes, and there's just a little bit of clearance front and back for the hanger, the clothes on the hanger. So it's, that deep. Inside that closet, Steve put up, I could have put them up, but Steve put them up, these brackets, and we get them at Lowe's. I like the brackets that have the double track because they seem to be a little bit sturdier and they hold weight better, and you can get them in a variety of lengths. And what else was there about that? The other thing about that is, screw them into a stud or use anchors so that the weight of the fabric doesn't pull the bracket, the standards out of the wall. And then the brackets that you get look like that. You know, they're like a folded piece of metal that goes in with two little anchors at the top and two little notches at the bottom. And they're not hugely expensive. You know, the longer, the bigger the brackets, the more expensive they are. Because you can get little short ones, you can get, I don't know, 5-6 inch ones. I get the 12-inch ones because my shelves, let's see here, my shelves are solid wood, they're pine, they are 1x12s. But a 1x12 is not like actually 1 inch by 12 inches. It's usually closer to 3/4 of an inch by closer to 11 inches. I think it's because when they cut the wood, it's wet and it sizes down as it dries, or something else that I don't know. I just know they're not actually 1x12. When you put the wood up, you don't want to use just raw bare wood. So let's say while you're at Lowe's buying your stuff, you buy the shelves. You can buy already prepared wooden shelves where they're painted or finished with a finish. Often those are a particle board, and you want to think about the distance between your uprights, because you know, some of my shelves, the blues and the reds that have a lot of fabric on it, they sort of sink a little bit in the middle. Every now and then I flip them over. In fact, I should be doing that this time. You know, I flip them over so that they go up, so that they can come back to level and eventually go the other way. So particle board, those particle board shelves, I think they deform a little quicker than, say, plywood. Plywood would be a little bit more stable, the thicker plywood, or just straight up 1x12s. Now, if you get plain old pine, either paint them, and you could use spray paint, you could use white spray paint, or use contact paper, because who's going to see, right? And you can very quickly cover those shelves, and I would do top and bottom, because when you get your shelves all the way stuffed, the fabric on the bottom does rest against the underneath wooden shelf. Why do I not have a standard like right in the center in addition to the other two to keep everything straight? I don't, because the standards come down. And when you, like, there's a clearance there. And when you put your fabric in, if your shelf standards are in just the wrong place, they get in your way and prevent you from putting fabric where you want to put it. And I think we tested mine, because I don't remember that my shelf standards really get in the way. All right, so there was that part. Now I want to show you how to fold a fat quarter. It's similar but different. This is a fat quarter I've unfolded, but you might notice that this yard of fabric here is roughly the size of a fat quarter. And I want my fat quarters to end up about this size. But I still fold fat quarters a little bit differently, because if I was truly matching this, I would fold fat quarters like this and this, but somehow that just seems wrong to me. I don't know why, but it does. When I pull fat quarters out of the dryer, they usually fit pretty neatly on top of my washer, so I fold as I go as I'm taking them out of the warm dryer. And I will fold to here. And since this has already been folded once, it's folding a little less easily than it did the first time. And then I can either bring it back toward myself, or more often I pick it up just like that and fold here. What I like to do, and I have not done this with this, is as I'm folding them, I go ahead and pull the threads out, and I might have a whole stack of these. Like I did actually buy several of these Tilda fat quarters, And often what I'll do is get them all like this with their hairy ends off to one side, and then I trim off all at once. And I know I'm not going to get all of the ravelly threads, but I get a lot of them. It tidies up the shelf. Okay, so there's a lot of subtle information there. Yes, I always wash my fabric. I wash it in the washer, I dry it in the dryer. If you missed that time out, go back many of them, and you'll get the whole story on the fabric washing. So I wash in the washer with a, neutral detergent that you can read about, and then I dry in the dryer. Never use dryer sheets, never use softeners. They make the fabric weird and soft. I pull it out. I fold it while it's warm. Because why press it and put it on the shelf when you're going to have to press it again when you use it? Makes no sense to me. So I fold it while it's warm. When I do press, I don't use any of those spritzy things. Not a one of them. I don't like them. I use water. I use steam and water. What you can do is a little research for yourself and compare Best Press with, those spray fabric wrinkle reducers. Downy, I think, makes one. They're kind of, sort of, pretty much the same. I would not add that to my quilt fabric. That's why I don't add the other chemicals to my quilt fabric. Now, some of you may really like that and love the way it does on your fabric and not mind the chemicals that it's adding to your fabric, and that's perfectly fine, because let's face it, I am in the minority here and I know it, and I'm okay with that. It's okay. Let's see, but I did want to say, because people ask, no, I don't use those things. I don't add them. I also don't add starch. And that is a whole other story, and perhaps one that I should talk about soon. Because I'm pretty sure I know why people are adding starch and stiffeners to their fabric these days. And it's a pretty subtle reason why. Okay, how much fabric do I buy? That was another question. Almost always I buy fat quarters. Sometimes I buy half yards, and then there are other times when I buy yards. And I have been pretty consistent with that through my whole quilting career, except as I have been going through my fabric and pulling out the ones that are going away, I'm finding that I have more half yards and yards than I thought I did. And a lot of them are big prints. And I know I did that because to use a big print, you often need a little more of the fabric, or I was thinking I would use them for quilt backs. But I don't need that many quilt backs in there. And for quilt backs, I construct them from yard pieces almost all the time. So it might take 6 1-yard pieces to make a quilt back. I'm going to keep some of those pieces, bigger pieces of fabric, but I'm not going to keep all of them. I'm going to go back to being more consistent about buying fat quarters, because I like to build into my stash the thing where you run out of a fabric, because I think quilts are way more interesting. The quilts I want to make will be more interesting if I substitute fabrics because I've run out of something, rather than just consistently sticking with the same fabric. In almost all cases, not every case, but in many cases throughout. And honestly, you can look back here at this quilt and see that that's true. In the border, some of those blues, I ran out of some of those blues and had to substitute something else. The same thing is true in the baskets. It's one of the reasons why the baskets are so many different colors. And the same thing is true in the English paper pieced blocks. They are different, number one, because I'm easily distracted and I like a lot of blues, but also because I didn't have a whole lot of yardage in any one of those fabrics. All right. So, last answer to the question, the burning question. You have all this fabric, and oh, you should see the pile. I mean, it's massive. It's massive, and it's going to get more massive because I'm only halfway through my stash. I've still got the greens and the browns and the blacks to go, and then I've got a lot more to go. What I'm going to do with mine is ask Lorna to bag it up. I've done this before and people really liked it. We will bag it up and sell it by the bag, kind of random bags. She'll make it pretty, and since she doesn't really have any emotional attachment to any of it, she'll just make it pretty. We'll do it by weight. You'll get what you get. There might be some big pieces, there might be some small pieces. It's all stuff that for one reason or another I loved, and now I don't need to use it anymore, but a lot of it's good. And I'm letting go of a lot of my K fabrics, which surprises the dickens out of me. All right, Judy tells me there's a question. How do you fold extra scraps? That's interesting. And how do you wash? So I have over here, let's see. These are small pieces or Liberty of London's, and I try to fold them about the same, but every now and then I end up with small pieces. I try to stack them by color. I keep similar things together. Here's another. This is a group that I haven't done anything with. I have a bin that I'm going to sort these out by color in. But that's one of the things that I think I'm going to do in the rolling cart that had the caves that is empty now. I think I'm going to sort my scraps in like colors and try to keep them in piles where it makes sense, because some of the next things I want to make, I have a feeling I'm going to be working a lot out of pieces of that size. And I haven't exactly figured out the most efficient way to deal with it. There may not be a good efficient way. But that seems to make sense, because little scraps, keeping them on the shelf, that's not, I don't think that's going to work. But I also don't want them in giant bins. I think I'm going to have to stack them in discrete colors and try to keep them tidy. Let me look down there and see if I've got anything else I can show you. I think that's about it, because I have wrangled a lot of my scraps. No, I haven't wrangled them yet, but I've got them in a bin, and I've got those down there, and yeah, those are going to have to, I'll show you when I get it done. How's that? Let me think. Folding. One other thing I do, and I've found that I've done this on the shelf. You know how sometimes you buy more than one piece of the same fabric? I have done that. I like to find the biggest piece of it, open it up, and slide the other one inside. So I might have 2 fat quarters folded together. And if I've got leftover scraps that are part of a bigger piece of yardage, I fold the bigger piece, as I showed you, and then I fold the smaller scraps to fit, and I put inside that, and then that unit goes on the shelf. So sometimes when I pull fabric out of the shelf, it's not just straight up cool yardage. It's got things cut out of it. And if you've got yardage where you've cut the ends off, and let's say you fussy cut them and they're kind of weirdly, the end of the fabric is weirdly shaped, I fold the weird shape to the inside and then fold it as neatly as I can so that the outside is as smooth as it can be, depending on the shape of the fabric. I hope that makes sense. So amazingly enough, and I didn't think it would take a whole half hour to go through that, but it did. So I appreciate you spending time with me. Let me give you my email address. It's right there. Feel free to email with suggestions. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about. I am happy to comply most of the time. And let's see what else. That's it. I will see you next Wednesday for Time Out at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, well, Central Daylight Time. And thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate the time you take out of your day to spend with me. Have a lovely afternoon, and may you have many happy stitches.